This new Eeveelution deck sets up so fast, it'll have you blazing up the ranked ladder. See what I did there? Blazing, because it sets up fast. Okay, anyway, let's hop into the video. So as the resident and self-proclaimed best Eeveelution trainer in the world, I had to obviously keep that title in TCG Pocket, so I did my research and saw that this Eeveelution deck actually came in second in this past weekend's Pocket Weekly. And it is this deck right here, which is the Flareon EX and Turtonator deck. And as you can see, this deck is very consistent, with a 58.11% win rate. Now, I'm sure you're wondering why I'm talking about the second place deck and not the first place deck, which the first place deck was also an Eeveelution deck that was like a mix of Eevees and not Eevees, which I have seen this deck all over the ladder as well, which is the Sylveon EX and Greninja deck, which this deck is kind of similar to the previous Giratina and Greninja deck that I shared a couple of months ago that was also running Snorlax, so it's kind of like an updated version of it. However, I did try this deck on the ladder, and this deck did feel a little bit slower to set up and can sometimes feel a little clunky if you're not able to get your energy, since it is running water and psychic energy, just like the Snorlax deck was. However, the Flareon deck only runs fire energy, so it does set up really quickly and is able to pick up those early KOs, which definitely works a lot better on the ladder. In terms of like tournament standings, this is probably a more consistent deck, but for the ladder, where you want something that's going to win you games and win you games quickly, I think the other deck definitely has a leg up just due to the speed at which it actually sets up. But so this Flareon deck is going to be running 2 Turtonator, 2 Flareon EX, 2 Eevees that run the move Collect, since there's like 12 billion different like basic Eevee cards that you can have, but make sure you have the ones that are running the move Collect. It basically works like Sprigatito, but instead of grass, it's normal. 2 Pokeball, 2 Eevee Bags, 1 Rocky Helmet, 2 Professor's Research, 1 Mars, 2 Pokemon Center Ladies, 1 Red, 2 Kiawes, and 1 Sabrina. And now the reason that I say that this deck sets up so quickly is because of Turtonator. So Turtonator is not a new concept when it comes to deck building, as we've seen Turtonator with things like Charizard before. And the reason that Turtonator is able to set up so quickly is because of Kiawe, which if you're able to open with Kiawe, you're able to attach 2 fire energies to Turtonator, which means that you would be able to attack in 2 turns. It's especially nice if you end up going first in your battle and you're able to start with Turtonator and have Kiawe in your hand, since then not only do you get to set up turn 0 where you normally wouldn't, but then that also means you get to attack on your next turn. And that's why I said this deck is able to set up so quickly and pick up early KOs, because if you're able to hit for 90 damage in 2 turns, that's taking out a lot of the basic cards that people are putting down at the beginning of each battle. Even things like the new Eevee EX, which only has an HP stat of 90. And since it's an EX card, if you're able to knock that out quickly, you can pick up a quick 2 points right off the bat. Another thing about this deck is the great synergy that Turtonator and Flareon actually have together. Since every time you attack with Turtonator, you do have to discard 1 fire energy. However, Flareon really likes this because of its ability. Its ability Combustion allows you to attach a discarded fire energy to the Pokemon with a little bit of recoil damage, so you will be taking 20 damage. However, the good thing is that with this deck, as you saw during the deck list overview, you are running 2 Eevee Bag and 2 Pokemon Center Ladies, which the Eevee Bag has 2 different options. You're able to use it for an extra 10 damage, so it kind of works like a Giovanni, or its second effect is that you can heal for 20 damage, which means you're able to freely use Combustion without having to worry about getting Cyrus or taking any extra damage if you don't want to take that extra damage in front of something like Giratina, who hits for 130, since Flareon's HP stat is 150. So with Eevee Bag, you're able to keep your Flareon healthy while also setting up thanks to Turtonator discarding an energy every time it attacks. On top of that, you do have a bit of disruption in this deck as well, since you are running Sabrina in case you need to stall for one turn, or if you want to pick up a KO on a smaller HP stat Pokemon that your opponent may have on the bench. And also things like Mars, which recently I really like using Mars offensively. Instead of waiting until my opponent has multiple points on me, which sometimes it feels a little late to use Mars, if I see that they've just used like a Professor's Research or anything of the sort, like Sylveon's ability, Happy Ribbon, which allows you to also draw 2 cards, then generally speaking that is a time when I would like to use Mars offensively in order to have them reshuffle their hand in case they drew into anything that they needed. So basically using Mars like a red card. You do also have Red to help you do that extra damage on any EX Pokemon, since people like to run things like Giant Cape or just things that are just out of range from Fire Spin. Since Fire Spin hits for 130, if you're in front of something like Darkrai, or even something like a full health Giratina, you are able to pick up those KOs. Since Darkrai has an HP stat of 140, and Giratina has an HP stat of 150. So with Red, you are hitting for 150. So you're literally hitting for exactly the amount of HP that you need in order to knock out a full health Giratina. Since apparently everybody is still running Darktina. Couldn't be me. Why would you use Darktina when you have adorable Eevees? But because of how quickly this deck sets up, it's even able to get the upper hand on other evolution decks that you might see on the ladder. So for example, like the first place winning deck, which I have seen a ton of times on the ladder already, which like I said, that deck sets up a bit slower than this one. So if you're able to get your Turtonator set up, you're able to pick up KOs on things like Froakies, Eevee, or even just start getting damage down on their Giratina with Turtonator before they're able to even like get ready to attack you or evolve their Froakies into Greninja. So personally, I have seen a ton of success with this deck specifically. I have tried the other decks. Like I said, I've tried the first place winning deck. I also tried the Sylveon and Espeon deck, which I really wanted that deck to be my deck because it has Espeon in it, but this one just sets up so much quicker. And I even tried the new deck that's been going around on Twitter where you're running Leafeon and Flareon, which once again, this deck is able to set up a little bit quicker. And since that deck is running Eevee EX, if you're able to get your Turtonator set up early on, that's an easy 2 points, like I said. So this is currently my favorite deck to run on the ladder, and I'm trying to see how high up the ranks I can go with this specific deck. But I would love to hear what deck you're currently running, especially if it's an evolution deck. So leave those down below in the comments. But that is going to go ahead and wrap it up for today's video. Hopefully you guys found this video helpful, and if you did, I kindly suggest that you consider subscribing so that I can continue to make content for you guys. And if you are already subscribed and you would like another way to support the channel, feel free to check out the merch store. There is a link down below in the description that takes you to not only my merch store, but also all of my other socials so you can keep up with what I'm doing on a daily basis. But thank you guys so much for watching, and thank you to those of you who have joined the channel as members. I appreciate you all so much. I love you guys, and I will see you in the next video. Bye guys.